Sagittarius, Sun, Moon and Rising. This is your tarot reading for the week ahead. The important message straight away is to find stillness, find calm, find respite. I say a lot of this because you have the Four of Swords as your opening card, which is the Lord of Rest from Strife. It's about a mental equilibrium, because only from that place will you be able to enter into the Ace of Swords, which is about inspiration, new ways of thinking, strokes of genius, about being able to think and see things in a different and perhaps a more empowered way. But that only coming about if we are able to retract and withdraw from the busyness and the chaos of everyday life. There's a lot of overlap here between your reading and Scorpio's reading, so it's well worth checking that video after this. And something that I've been saying to all of the zodiac signs, it's really interesting. The first 6 zodiac signs really seem to fall into this space of being very busy, being at times quite scattered. And then the second part of the zodiac signs of which you fall into is feeling a lot more restful, feeling a lot more, in some ways, secluded. So don't be surprised if you find that throughout this week you need time for isolation, you need time on your own, you just need time for rest and quiet. Are you making these things a priority? Particularly as we wind down the end of the year, there's a feeling of needing to wrap everything up, to go just for that final push. And sometimes we can just think, okay, at the end of the year, then I can prioritize rest. But it's very, very key here that we're not delaying that rest, that restoration, that ability to recompose just towards the end of the year, because otherwise these vital insights, these vital strokes of inspiration and insight are going to be missed. This is particularly true as you have the Strength card here. And it's really, really great to see this. Again, we saw this in Scorpio's reading, but the Strength card is an interesting one because it's not the usual depiction of strength, which is brute force. It's much rather strength that comes from the process of grace, being able to approach things in a kind and sensitive and gentle manner, and there being the virtue of grace through those attributes. And that is something that is really playing out for you this week. That is not about rolling up our sleeves, gritting our teeth, and just pushing through at whatever cost, but rather thinking, is there a gentler approach? Is there a wiser approach? Is there a way that I could work smarter rather than harder? Am I trying to push things through unnecessarily? Am I trying to prove myself too much? Has this become so arduous a task that I've forgotten to pull back? Again, I'm sure we've all had those instances where we're struggling with something, we really can't see a way around it. And the moment that we pull back and the moment we kind of allow it to move to the periphery of our vision is then when we're able to see it most clearly. Those moments, where we wake up in the morning and think, that's the solution to that issue that I've been facing. This is by far the best route for you this week, rather than being at the coalface, chipping away, gritting your teeth, as I mentioned. Is there a way that you can just go, okay, I'm just going to put a pause on that for the moment, pull away, find some space, find a breath of fresh air, and then come at it anew. There is such value in that. What is also really interesting is you have the Ace of Swords and then that Page of Swords. So this idea of new thoughts coming through, new ideas, new strokes of inspiration is so given. Again, that might feel a little bit, I have this new idea, but I'm not sure where to take it. I'm not sure what to do with it right now. How do I implement this straight away? Again, ask yourself, do I need to implement this straight away? Is that the necessary course of action? Or is it, okay, I've noticed that, I've jotted it down, I've made a note of it, and then I can pick it up later on down the line. Otherwise, it's likely to lead to a place of the idea feeling bigger than you, rather than you feeling fully in control, fully in command of what it needs. Remember that the Strength card represents trial over adversity through gentler processes. It's not trying to force, it's not trying to cajole, it's not trying to ram a square peg into a round hole. Have we been doing that this week? Have we been trying to force through what isn't ready, what needs a much more delicate and patient approach? That will be really, really useful. You may also find with the Page of Swords that there is at times a little bit of self-doubt, as I mentioned, creeping in there. And that's the conflict that the Strength card and the Page of Swords may find within you this week. These questions of, can I do it? Am I capable? Am I just making up stories? Am I just fooling myself into thinking that I have this quality, I have these skills, I have these attributes, but should they just remain a pipe dream? And it's for me to say, no, listen to those new ideas, that new way of thinking, that little spark of, there's something in that. It might not be fully formed. You might not know what exactly that looks like right now, but do you need to? Is that entirely necessary? And there's something about really protecting those ideas too. Perhaps that's about not oversharing them right now. There's sometimes a sense of when something's really new and really fledgling, they can be quite delicate. If you think about a new plant or a new flower that's only just starting to bud through, if there's too much of a heavy-handedness with it, it can crush the idea or crush the dream. So it's not about necessarily keeping secrets, but it is about, okay, that's the germ of an idea there. There's something brewing there, but I don't necessarily want to tell people, because if they say something derisive or undermine it or say, oh, are you sure that's going to work? They put a question mark around it. Again, it's not necessarily about ridiculing in any sort of way, but they could just put a seed of doubt around it. And that seed of doubt could overshadow what could have been a really, really good idea. So I'm not encouraging duplicitousness. I'm not encouraging necessarily being furtive or the safekeeping of secrets, but be selective about who you're saying what to. Only share particularly new ideas, little things that haven't quite fully formed in your mind yet. If you want input, if you want advice, go to those that A, you trust, and B, that you know will support. And if they don't immediately assume, oh, that was a rubbish idea. Yeah, I knew I was just making it up. I knew I was being foolish. Sidestep that way of thinking at the moment. May also be a time to pull out your journal as well. Are you doing your morning pages? If there's any anxiety that is rattling around your head, sometimes the most useful thing to do is just jot those down, jot the things that are playing on your mind just before you go to sleep, so you're not trying to kind of process them. It's particularly important if you're finding that your sleep is disruptive. And again, just taking that time to be reflective, taking that time to muse, taking that time to just see what comes through. It's not really a time for doing this week. It's not a time to be in the throes of busyness. Allow other zodiacal signs to do that for you. So if there's any point of comparison and think, oh, everybody else seems really busy. Should I be busy, or why am I not doing so much? That's absolutely your prerogative. It's the way that you're meant to be approaching things. Finally, with the Seven of Wands, the Lord of Valor, there is themes here about standing your ground. It partly links to what was said before around other people perhaps not encouraging some of your ideas or your approaches or things that are playing on your mind as much as you'd perhaps like them to. But that's absolutely fine. Again, there's part of this about just staying true to yourself. This combination of the Strength card with the Seven of Wands really, really speaks to that, particularly if that ever comes under fire, or particularly if anybody questions your methodology or your approach to things. It's useful to stay open and receptive to other people's advice and input. But ultimately, we have to do what feels right for us and allow that to be your guiding force and your guiding light for this week. Okay, hope that helps, and I'll see you next week. Bye for now.